Hey everyone, welcome back to Crypto Cash. Thank you so much again for joining me here. I hope you're having a phenomenal day. Happy Saturday and wonderful weekend to you. We're just going to go ahead and take a quick look at the weekend chart here for Bitcoin. Generally, what we like to look at is, of course, look back for the previous week and anticipate what's going to happen next. Because again, low volume happens a lot on weekends, as we're seeing here, so starting to taper off. And a lot of times the price just kind of falls flat. Sometimes altcoins will burst, sometimes they'll drop. Like at this point, it's kind of an uneventful weekend. So just to keep it simple for you, we'll look at some liquidation levels, see if there's any new concentrations, or more importantly, if any patterns are forming. Obviously, you saw the cup and handle on the charts. We'll see if that's still relevant or if that's invalidated. So let's take a look here, of course, at the last 7 days of liquidation as a starting point, just getting perspective on where people are hedged the most. And we can see, of course, from our most local high here on the 24th of November, we can see, or sorry, correction, that's the 29th of November. That was basically yesterday. We can see a lot of folks are heavy at about 98,700, upwards of about 100,000 even. Okay, so 98.7, 98.8, upwards of 100K. So we got a lot of folks shorting that level, and it makes sense because Bitcoin kind of double topped and it came up to that range of resistance. It's pretty common for that to occur. In fact, we held off on a long position until it got back to our desired entry, which is right where we're at right now, 96.6. So I'll clarify as to why I feel that this is a solid consideration for a long. But also, if there's invalidation areas too, we want to talk about that as well. Because whenever I send out a signal, for example, to my committee, first of all, congrats on our H-bar long here, 2 days, 60%. We took Tau profit 71% in 7 days, SUI 24% in 12 days. And prior to that, we had a Bitcoin short that worked out pretty well, 42%. Anyways, I like to highlight that because those are just like 5x leverage trades. And the whole point of me mentioning that is just because, with low leverage, low position size, you can succeed and do tremendously better with the crazy markets that we're in. And again, with the consideration for entry at 96.6, I do send out trade alerts, and I highlighted the simple fact yesterday that Bitcoin is starting to average itself out there. That's a 0.618 fib level. It's a common retracement place in which you usually will see the price action recover. I'll show you on the charts here in a minute, but what we can see here is there are more people taking longs than shorts at this moment, which is good. It's only about 2 billion in liquidation long delta, which basically just implies that we got 2 billion more in liquidation for longs versus shorts. So even though we see a lot of liquidation here to the upside, for example, this isn't super relevant because there's more people actually taking longs than shorts. So hypothetically, the price should go up. Again, I know it seems kind of strange. How can that happen when there's more liquidation on the upside? But the truth is the liquidation on the downside is spread out, and it's not heavy concentrations, if you will. Okay, and that's a lot of liquidation at the $100,000 mark. And that goes back a couple of, almost about a week or so from last time we were up at that level. Let's take a quick look at open interest as well. Clarify here, we are currently in the 96K range. 96.2 is a pretty heavy concentration. Some folks got in there. So again, 96,000 is probably one of the stronger places in which people are buying right now for Bitcoin. So that also reinforces some area of control, right? Point of control. High volume accumulations generally imply support and resistance. We take a look at the daily time frame, we can recognize that SMAs are all below the price action. That's generally bullish. Again, I've mentioned this for going on a couple weeks now. The RSIs, everything on the daily is going to look very, very bullish for quite some time. If we break below the 20-day SMA here in the relative near future, then we may want to be a little bit more considerate of the fact that we could see further downside. Not to say it couldn't still happen. We absolutely saw a pretty significant pullback. What was that? It was last Monday. A good 7% in 1 day. That's quite a lot. But it's not to say that couldn't happen again. We are double topping here, but we're above that moving average, and that's a very positive sign. Just kind of letting us know we're on the right side of the tracks. While we did reject off 70 in the RSI here, that's kind of concurrent with that $100,000 range at 98.7. We can see the price action pulling back with it, so this is kind of a normal natural correction. This is nothing to really to read into. Okay, stochastic is diverging, of course. MACD is still diverging, so momentous indicators are letting us know we're losing momentum, which is no surprise. Obviously, until we break 100,000, we're going to be kind of stalled out in this area. It's very normal, par for the course. So again, it's not bullish nor bearish, the overall daily time frame. Being above all those moving averages is helpful. It's not the only thing you want to look at, but from a momentum standpoint, obviously we've lost our momentum. And you can see here, we hit this high here, hit this high here, and the price is potentially due to correct itself. So again, please remember, folks, just because there is a double top doesn't mean it's going to pull back. There's a lot of confirming factors that need to be present as well. Okay, so what we want to pay attention to, of course, in general is volume. We look at here on the 4-hour time frame, we can recognize it's tapering off, but this last 24 hours has roughly been, a Friday night / Saturday morning, and those are pretty uneventful. We have been noticing a lot of consistency on Saturday evenings, being kind of bigger movement time frames. Okay, so I wouldn't be surprised if we see some movement later today when Asian markets open, and they just kind of they pick a direction. A lot of times they'll continue the same direction, and right now, for the moment, the direction is up. We're establishing higher highs and higher lows. This overall trend here is still positive. We look at the SMAs. This is another thing that, for confluence with that 0.618 fib level. So to clarify, we have this 96,500 mark. That's kind of a support range for us. Okay. And the reason why is, well, partially because it's a fib level. We have a strong amount of control here too with volume, and we also have all moving averages hanging out right there. So that does imply that this should be a bouncing point for us, which is all the more reason why I felt confident taking a long at 96,600. Okay, so 96.6 is our entry for a long on Bitcoin. Obviously, our take profit is just below the all-time high. That's generally a good strategy. But the common theme here is that we're seeing a lot of support in that range. We're also over 50 on the RSI. Money flow index is now above the price action, which is good, even though MFI can be a little funky on weekends. This does include mostly some higher volume weekdays, and that's generally going to be construed as positive here. We can see MACD is starting to lose its momentum. So from the daily and the 4-hour time frame, we're seeing these momentous potential shifts. Now, again, when we see these things happen, it's not always going to be a monstrous pullback, but you do got to recognize last time we diverged on the MACD, the price is right here, and the price pulled back almost 7 to 10%, I think it was. Okay, so that's a pretty healthy correction. Does that mean we're going to see the exact same thing? No, it doesn't necessarily mean that, because there's a lot of other confirming factors. Until we lose this area, we're probably going to be able to presume the price should continue higher. Now, what happens if we lose this level here? Well, we do have a secondary support with a previous high and a lot of resistance here locally at about 94.7. In fact, that's where the price action hung out and bounced pretty well. So heaven forbid we lose this area. Second point of invalidation would be 94.7. Okay, so again, this all depends on what kind of leverage you're using, what kind of trader you are. Both those areas are tentatively support levels until they aren't. Right? I know it seems crazy and weird, but in trading, things are until they aren't. Okay, so just know that. We got to trust this area is going to be a support. Another reason why I feel like it should be at a good support is because we had a previous high here, a couple of times which the price actually had difficulty crossing that level. Once it broke through, it hadn't looked back until just recently. Okay, so I do think we're going to be able to see some support here. But again, this is a weekend, folks. Things get funky. I would not be surprised if we see a pullback, a last little leg down to scare everybody into a short position, and then they rake the price back up. We're also confirming here on the cloud in some ways, not all. The lagging span is now free and clear to the downside, but it's soon to intersect if the price just goes sideways. So that's kind of a no-buy zone. Same thing here as well. Conversion lines below the baseline, losing momentum. We're now testing the cloud. So there's, again, some confluence here, but we lose this area. I would say the next area of consideration would be 95.2 to 94.7. That's kind of like the next area of support. So what I'll do is I'll post our playout chart here on our Twitter, Telegram, and Discord. Try not to get too stuck on patterns. Again, patterns are good to reinforce things, but at this point here, we have still more signs pointing up than down, and until they invalidate themselves, so to speak, we have no reason to consider opening a short. I know it seems weird though taking a long position at this level. I totally get it. I struggle with it too sometimes, but most everything that we see here is still fairly bullish. Granted, we gotta maintain this range here, but we maintain 95.2 to 96.5. I think we're gonna be in good shape. That's a good solid support range. Okay, cool. I'll post our playout chart here shortly. Also, future reference too, we have a new deposit bonus here for Bitunix up to $12,000 rewards. It's pretty straightforward. You just whatever you deposit, you get 150% of that if we unlock that. Okay, and it's not an if really, because last month we had 800 million in volume, and all we got to do is qualify for 300 million this month. So pretty simple. Anyways, it's all there for you if you want to check it out. If you use my link to register in the past, you're automatically eligible. Feel free to use that moving forward if you want. Phenomenal exchange, no KYC or VPN. All right, folks, have a good rest of your day. We'll look forward to seeing the next one. Take good care of yourself. Bye-bye.